Hey everyone, is this all just a big bull trap? What is going on in the markets? Should we be worried? What are we going to do? Do we FOMO? Do we buy in? Do we sell? What do we do? I'm going to tell you in this video. Please stay tuned. It's going to be really interesting, I promise. Please like and subscribe so more people can see this. I'm going to show you guys Bitcoin, Ethereum, and ILV. It's going to be really good. For all of you that aren't too sure with technical analysis and aren't too sure where everything is heading, I'm going to give you some good insight on what I see happening and some really basic technical analysis. I'm not going to be that guy on YouTube that has all the expert knowledge and things like that. I'm just going to help you all because I know there are a lot of newer people in the space that watch my channel and things like that. So I'm going to make an effort to help you all understand some really basic concepts in technical analysis. And there are some really important ones that are appearing right now and you guys should be aware of. Okay, so the basics is going to be what I'm going to focus on. So if you're not here for the basics, I apologize. We'll get to, maybe I'll do some of the other stuff down the road. Just let me know if you guys would like to see that. Let me know in the comments. Okay. So how does a chart work? Buying and selling. If people buy assets, they typically go up. If people sell them, they typically go down. That is the big basic we're looking at here. Okay, so today I'm going to go through some really simple things. I'm going to go through Bitcoin, Ethereum, and ILV in that order. Of course, ILV is in there. It's actually got some really interesting things we need to talk about because the whales seem like they're manipulating this market a lot at the moment. So what might seem like the bull run returning could be a gigantic bull trap. I'm not saying it is, and obviously buyers can step in at any moment. What I'm telling you is that the buyers have not stepped in yet. You guys should be aware of this so that you can make informed decisions based around what is happening in the market, not what you think is happening or you see in the media or on other YouTube channels. There's lots going on. You need to make your own decisions. Again, this is not financial advice. Please do your own research. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm trying to help you inform your own decision making. So I'm going to go through the 1 hour, the 4 hour, and the daily chart on each different token. Now, a big concept that you should get aware of is, firstly, each of these charts is a 1 hour chart, is each bar is 1 hour. A 4 hour chart, each bar is 4 hours. And a daily chart, 24 hours for each bar. Okay? And what is the purpose of looking at all these? They show different time scales. Maybe you're looking at the 1 hour because you want to see where price might be moving in the very near future. And maybe you're looking at the daily because you're trying to see where it's moving on a macro scale. We might actually take a peek at the weekly as well because I think it's really telling at the moment. I think it's very, very important. So what we're looking at with the 1 hour chart is where the price is heading. Now, I'm not going to go over the top with the indicators here, but I'm going to go across volume. I was watching a different channel today, Market Makers. I'll leave their link in the description down below. You need to have a bit more prior knowledge to understand them fully, but I'm going to try and break down kind of what they've been discussing. And that is that the volume is not here. Now, what you're looking for, so this down here indicates volume. And what volume is it's just telling you how much people are buying and selling. It's more quantity and things like that. But what you can notice is if the volume of how many people are coming in and buying all the stocks, or in this case, crypto, and then selling all the crypto and things like that, if that doesn't match up very well with the price action and the candles going up and down, then you need to really start asking yourself what is happening in the market. Because if you don't do that, you could get caught in a really deadly trap. Okay, this is some really interesting things you should see. So this case is a prime example on the Bitcoin chart. You see one giant volume candle here. That's the one down the bottom there. Let's zoom into that. That's the volume candle right there. You can see it's giant. It's way out of trend. What is this telling me? This is telling me that you didn't have just like a million people come in and buy Bitcoin on the same second. You had one big player that came in and bought a crap ton. Okay, they pushed the crypto up. They pushed Bitcoin up because normal. So if it was a lot of and a variety of people pushing this up as a team, which would show a lot more strength because that shows demand in the area and people wanting to buy in that zone. If you had a bunch more people doing it, you would see a spike of some kind. Then you would see them keep buying and see the spike up a bit, at least to a degree. But you could see after 3 or 4 hours, it died instantly. There was no one else buying or selling. Even selling is healthy. There's no one doing anything. And you can see it up here that down in my TSV, which is time segmented volume, what this actually shows is how it fits into trends in previous times in the market. And you can see there's a giant volume candle there, but down here in the time segmented volume, it's nothing. It's a blip. It doesn't actually exist, not really, because it's a single or a small group of people trying to push the price up. And what that is it's market manipulation. Now, I want to quickly talk about that, and then we'll delve into the charts for a couple more minutes, and we'll sign off. So, market manipulation. It's a very simple case of making something look good. So, if you had to put a weird analogy on this, right? If you had someone and they were selling like 50 apples, right? And then all of a sudden, someone buys the Apple store, and the apples were selling at 50 cents each. And someone buys it, and now they're selling the apples. They bought it all up for 50 cents, and now they're trying to sell it to you for 60 cents, 70 cents. They're pumping it up themselves because they're changing the price. That's kind of what's happening here. But what happens eventually, you get to 60, 70 cents, and people are like, well, I don't want to buy them anymore. They're way too expensive. Maybe I can get something else for cheaper or whatever. Okay, and the Bitcoins are Apple in this case, are apples. I should have just used the company. It's probably a better example. But anyways, you get to 60, 70 cents and no one is buying it. So what do? You sell it as a lump sum. You start selling them for 70, 69. As long as it's above 50, they're turning a profit. What they're doing is they're snapping up all the liquidity and selling it to people until eventually they sell it for really cheap on them and they dump all the apples on them. And then what happens is they're buying it up, or they're selling all their stuff as well, because the whole ecosystem got devalued all in one hit. So that's what's happening here. They've blown it out of proportion. And unless retail, which is everyday investors, you and me, unless they step in and decide that it is worth this much, it can very easily fall apart. So before I drag that on anymore, I'm going to look at the 4-hour chart. Now, this looks a lot healthier. This candle was actually in trend a lot more and quite big on the time segmented volume down the bottom there. But as you can see on the volume chart, it still didn't hold up. The volume fell off straight away because no one is there willing to buy at these prices. Okay? And maybe they will come in to buy, but if you guys want to know kind of what I think could happen, I still think we could go on a bull run. I'm not too confident on it, but I think it's definitely possible depending on how the market reacts and how the S&P does and things like that. I think the broader stock markets are what's important here. So before you guys go around buying ILV up and stuff, look at other charts. The ILV chart doesn't matter as much. What's happening here is I think at the very least, we have to come down and we have to touch this trend line. You can see this was a trend line for a while, and some whales, as I just explained, decided to break the trend line for us. Whether or not retail says, okay, we have the funds to bring this up higher, is up to everyone else. Okay, I'm not saying go and tell mum and dad to buy Bitcoin. It's not going to make a difference. The whales are in control, and we will see how they feel about this. Obviously, there's a large macro thing happening in the world right now that is affecting a lot of this. Okay, so let's just quickly look at the daily chart. And this one is actually looking really nice. Okay, so the volume is going up a lot. All right. But what you've got to be careful of is if that volume goes up too much, you could start seeing some divergences in this area, but we'll see where we stand, because if you look at the total crypto market cap, you're hitting your head on this resistance here. If maybe I can get a rectangle. There's so much resistance in this area. We have to break this before moving upwards. But another thing I've been noticing, if we look at the total market cap, is that this looks significantly healthier than anything like Bitcoin, which is telling me that even if Bitcoin moves sideways, the alts are performing. And let's have a look at that right now with Ethereum. So if we look at Ethereum, this is a lot better on the 1 hour chart. You can see that the volume peaked up really high and then dropped down a bit, but it's still got some decent quantity compared to this whole, couple of days before. It's got some decent quantity in there pushing the prices up. And you can see this in the chart as well, and it's gone above the previous high on the TSV, which means on the 1 hour chart, you're quite safe from divergences, in the short term at least. And divergences are what I primarily use to trade, and that is essentially a big thing where, in my case, volume and price do not match up. Basically, volume's decreasing as price is increasing, and that creates a divergence in the market, which means that it just tells a lot of people that the volume isn't there to back up the price action, and the price is probably going to fall down. Maybe I can find a good example of it. Okay. So here's a decently big divergence here, where the volume decreased over time, only a little bit, so it's not a major divergence, as you see some bigger ones, but the price action went up a lot. That means that there was not enough volume there to keep up momentum, and what happens is you started to see a decline. It wasn't massive, but on the larger time frames, this can be a pretty big indicator. So let's quickly look at the 4 hour chart. And back on here, it looks like it actually looks really healthy. Comparatively to Bitcoin, Ethereum is doing really well. I'm actually quite comfortable in it. But you have to consider that Bitcoin is the big dog here. If it falls apart, everything else will. And in the S&P and things like that, they are not performing that well. Okay, they need to get above some key resistances, and until they do, I'm quite nervous. But I still think we're going to come down and retest the trend line before doing anything massive, especially since Bitcoin didn't really test it. And on the daily, you can see that the volume's starting to turn over. So you've got big, giant daily candles, but the volume's starting to turn over. And unless we can get another big spike or pump from someone in the market, we could turn here. Now, ILV is the exception. This is really interesting. It was so low that I guess it only has anywhere to go but up. Okay, so I'll make the TSV a bit bigger again. Now, it's the opposite, okay? So on the other charts, we could see that on the 1 hour and the 4 hour, they were looking quite solid and looking like they were going quite upwards. But on the macro charts, they look like their volume was declining a decent amount. ILV is the opposite, and I don't know what to tell you about that. But on the 1 hour chart, volume has already started to decline. Now, we could see it pump up again, but what I would expect to see is for the volume to increase and not quite break this peak, but for the price to break the peak and to get a divergence. Usually when you see a big peak, I'm expecting a divergence of some kind. I love them. So we'll look at the 4 hour, and it's actually looking pretty good. It's moving up quite steadily, and you've got some really good trend in your volume. So it's moving up quite a bit. And I'm trying to teach you guys about volume today. But you can see that the volume here is very choppy. So there's a lot of players in this market doing a lot of weird things to ILV. And since it's a smaller cap token, this can be expected. Whoops. Okay, so you've got the daily chart. Now on the daily, we've actually seen volume in the red for quite some time. That means that there's been more selling than buying, okay? But at the moment, we're finally getting that turn up to the upside. It could be a tiny little wave and come back down on the downside, or it could go up as high as some of our previous highs. So what we need for it to happen in ILV is to break this resistance and hold it. That's what a lot of people and a lot of newer traders and things, I'm not saying you should trade, I'm saying you should, I like to analyze the markets before I enter into a spot buy and hold some of a token, because I kind of like to see on a macro scale, if I think it could go a lot lower, if I think it's got a lot of demand and things like that. A lot of new people in the space they see it break a trend line or break a high, previous high or whatever, and then they buy in. But what you need to watch for is you need to watch for it to hold that level. Any given level, it needs to hold it. Because what happens is it breaks that high, and then the volume is gone. No one's buying there. And then it falls apart. All right. We've seen this countless and countless times. A good example is probably Bitcoin. So you see Bitcoin, let's go on the daily. That's probably good. You see it break this high here. And then everyone's thinking of buying in and things like that. And you get a little wick up to the top there. Okay. But you can see the volume decreased. It was only decreasing. It was dropping off at an enormous rate on the macro. So it broke that high and you're like, oh, we're going to go higher because we broke the high. You have to have it hold that line. It didn't even have one candle that held it. We'll go look here and you can see that in this the first time it broke the high, the volume decreased, and that should have been your indication, oh, it's going to sell off a bit. And then it went a bit higher, but there was nothing left in the market down here. You can see there was nothing left. So when it broke that high again, not a single candle above, and that should tell you that other people are in control and they could bring the prices down. You just have to be aware of that. Try and keep an eye on volume whenever you're looking at charts. That's the point I'm trying to bring home here. Keep an eye on it. And at the moment, we don't have enough of volume to really consider this trend true. We need to see it hold these levels for a period of time before you can be like, okay, I have some more confidence in the market. I might put a little bit of my volume into here and wait to see if it drops lower with the rest of it. Just always keep some on the side, not financial advice. Please do your own research. I hope this was helpful for you guys. See ya. Thanks for watching the video, guys, and don't forget to watch this next video down there in the bottom left hand. Wait.
It's doing that thing again.
Wait. It's happened again? Oh, crap. Ah, it happened again!